Let's now get to the top focus regarding the big story this evening, and this is with respect to the new Motor Vehicles Act and how each respective state government has been reacting to this new law brought in by the centre. It has been over 10 days since this was brought in. 1st of September, it was to be implemented across the country. The big focus was on hefty fines for traffic violations, which would work on ground as a huge deterrent. But it has met with enough resistance coming in from at least 10 states. From Delhi, West Bengal, Gujarat, Kerala, several states there have refused to implement this. Madhya Pradesh Chief Minister, in fact, is the latest now to notify the centre to reconsider, to revisit the bracket of these hefty fines. There are also several BJP-led state governments. They want to tweak the provisions in this. They want to slash the fines by a certain percentage. Gujarat having done that in a certain categories by 50%. There is also Karnataka. Karnataka being a unique case because at the start of it, it implemented the act as it is, as it existed. Now they are 10 days later wanting once again to revisit the bracket of fines. Uttarakhand has also opted to reduce the fines. Meanwhile, Union Transport Minister Nitin Gadkari has continued to stick on saying that the very purpose of this is that it works as a deterrent. Follow the rules. Do not be afraid to pay fines. If you're following the rules, you will never be fined. And this is how a strong deterrent works. But the question that we're asking, in those states who are choosing populism over safety, let's get in further inputs. We have with us our correspondent from across the country, Ayushman with us, Neha Hebale, as well as Amita with us. First to you, Ayushman, this is with respect to how this is going to be implemented in Delhi. There are certain areas in Delhi which is as per the central government. People are already being slapped hefty fines. But the Delhi government, though, Delhi state government continues to maintain that they're still speaking with experts and other stakeholders to finally implement it.
Yes, sir. In fact, when we had contacted Aam Aadmi Party's spokesperson, they had clarified that the fines are very high and that is why they are considering all the available options, and that is why they have been talking to experts, to all those stakeholders who are involved in this. And the only reason for not implementing this all across Delhi is that the fine amount is very high. On the other hand, if you see, we have been reporting that there has been huge crowd at the pollution centers where people have turned up in large numbers. Now, Delhi government has increased these pollution centers all across the DTC bus centers. There has been these pollution centers have been made. Even the working hours have been extended. But the Delhi government says that these provisions are definitely being studied. At the same time, they want there should be a capped amount, but the hefty fines is a concern, and that is why they are still meeting the stakeholders. Yesterday there was a PC by the transport minister where there was indication given that it might not necessarily in Delhi, it might not be diluted and it may be implemented in its official form, but till today no official confirmation has come, and the traffic police continues to issue challans in the court's name, and people need to go to the court and there to deposit the fines.
Right. But
For now,
very quickly,
all the options are being explored. This is what is being said by the Delhi government.
On whether or not the Delhi government has a choice to implement this or not, because Delhi partly being under the central government, particularly as far as police is concerned, traffic police is concerned, this would inevitably mean that the central government's implementation across Delhi.
Well, sir, transport is with the Delhi government, so the implementation part is on the part of the Delhi government. There is no doubt about it that the implementation part of the Motor Vehicle Act in the national capital remains with the state government. This is why the state government has clarified at the very beginning, when the entire debate opened up as to how this rule is going to be implemented in national capital. At that very particular moment, the Aam Aadmi Party clarified that the hefty fines are a bit going too harsh on people, and that is why they would talk to stakeholders, and only then they would be implementing this. Though we are being told by the sources that it may not be watered down in Delhi, but unless and until an official confirmation comes, we should wait.
All right, Ayushman, thanks for explaining that technicality, but stay on with us. We're getting in more voices. We have with us our correspondent Amita, who's going to take us through how the Maharashtra government has decided to take this, keeping in mind state assembly elections to happen in a few weeks from now, next month. Amita, Maharashtra government has been very clear that they would like to maintain status quo. They would still not look at implementing this. They would not like to ruffle any feathers, so to say, as far as Aam Janta, as far as public is concerned.
Well, that's correct. And elections are around the corner. It seems like the government doesn't want to hurt sentiments at this point, and hence we understand the state transport minister has already sent in a letter to the central government asking them to reconsider these fines, saying it's too steep at this point. He's also made a comment saying that this is something that a lot of people wouldn't be able to, contribute to, and hence these fines should in fact be reduced. He's also said that if the central government does not, pay heed to the letter that was sent by the state government, then they will then figure out what their next course of action is. Till then, there will be no implementation. All through the day, we've been talking to people.
Okay.
We've gotten mixed reactions. A lot of people said that this is not something that the government should be doing. If I can get in one quick reaction, Seher, someone very interestingly saying that public safety must be priority. Why do you believe that?
Yeah, because if that's a fine, I think it's fine because it's in public safety. So people should ideally follow the rule because it's for their safety. And if they are not following the rule, it's government's right to impose the safety rule. So which is why I second the rule.
Okay, so if you are following the rules, why worry is another point that's really coming across also.
That's right. Absolutely. It does, Amita, get as basic as that if you're following the rules, there's nothing to fear. There's nothing to complain about being slapped with hefty fines because you are following the rules then. Neha, the case being very unique in the state of Karnataka, which started out at the start of it from the 1st of September, implementing the central government's law verbatim. When they saw Gujarat taking that option of slashing the fines by 50%, they want to roll back on that now.
Absolutely, Seher, that is right. While initially, of course, when the fines were imposed, people were really willing to, cough up that amount, knowing that it was in the interest of, it was in their best interest. But now that they are given this option of having the fine slashed, now that the government of Karnataka has announced that, these fines would be slashed, it is really going to be interesting to see how long it would take in terms of implementation on ground. Because what we have right now is, of course, the government of Karnataka stating that, they would like to explore the Gujarat model and try and implement that. But on ground currently, even as of right now, it is the hefty fines that are being imposed. Well, that's one aspect of this, the people of the state, of course, should really understand that at the end of the day, it is in their best interest. So be it a fine of 50,000 or be it a fine of 500, Seher, the only, of course, problem really that people have expressed over here is the fact, of course, a little unrelated to this, that road infrastructure is not being invested in in Karnataka. So, of course, while you have people that are really, making a hue and cry about this entire issue over here, they have to also understand at this point of time, the traffic police has stressed on this many a time in the past, that it is ultimately for your safety that this is being done.
Right. Amita, if you could take this point through to commuters who are there with you here. The argument on why should this be related to infrastructure, on why this should be related to potholes. There are arguments that your speed slows down during driving through pothole-ridden roads, which is why you choose to jump lights. To what extent is this being taken as a valid argument in blaming the government to first spread awareness, to first upgrade infrastructure instead of directly just fining the people? Okay, we're going to be reconnecting with Amita on that in just a bit. Let me put that question forth here while we get in more experts speaking to us here on this here as well. Ayushman, this has been an often criticism that has been seen in the past few days here on blaming the government instead. blaming the government for not putting speed cameras. If you're paying a hefty fine, you actually need proof that you've jumped the light by a few seconds. Blaming the government for not installing CCTV, blaming the government for not fixing roads. And how could this be related to hefty fines regarding traffic violations?
Well, sir, very importantly, you need to understand the fact that has been put forth by Union Minister Nitin Gadkari when he says that the government is not in a hurry to collect fines from people. They are for the safety of people, and that is why these hefty fines have been imposed. Talking to the reporters, Nitin Gadkari had clarified that often this image has been portrayed that the government wants to charge extra money from the people because the basic facilities are not there. The facilities are there, and if they are not there, the government is working on that. This has been said by the Union Minister. On the other side of the argument, which is being said that the government must improve the infrastructure, even when the infrastructure is improved, if you see for that matter, Yamuna Expressway or the other expressways in the country, if there is a certain kind of fear that the CCTV or the traffic police is monitoring and you are going to get caught if you flout the rules, then definitely you can see a decrease in the accidents that take place all through the year. That has been the argument of Union Minister Nitin Gadkari, that saving life on the roads are more important than imposing the hefty fines.
That's right, but everyone's been arguing. The argument here being not about the fines but about the bracket of fines, and now this is yet another example of what the UP government has stated. It at first hand wanting to go ahead with the act and implementing it, and now reconsidering it again. This is yet another state, the UP government, also reconsidering reducing the steep traffic fine. So the argument essentially is here not about whether or not to fine, but with respect to the bracket of these hefty fines. Ashok Kataria, who's the UP Transport State Minister now, has said that the government is rethinking their stand on traffic penalties. A decision will be made soon.
देखिए, अभी जो अधिनियम है केंद्र ने जिस दिन लागू किया वह लागू है, लेकिन अगर किसी पर जुर्माना लगता है और वह समन शुल्क देना चाहता है और तो उसको पुराने समन शुल्क के आधार पर ही मुक्त किया जा सकता है। लेकिन यदि वह कोर्ट जाना चाहता है तो उसको जो नया अधिनियम आया उसके अंतर्गत ही करना होगा। लेकिन हम इसके बारे में पुनर्विचार कर रहे हैं और निश्चित रूप से इसका समन शुल्क क्या रखा जाए इसके बारे में हम विमर्श कर रहे हैं और आने वाले दिनों में शीघ्र देखने को मिलेगा। उत्तर प्रदेश की जनता के हित में हम जरूर निश्चित कोई संशोधन लेकर आएंगे।
Our correspondent Alok is getting us these details with respect to this update regarding the UP government. Alok, increasingly, the argument now, of course, is not about questioning the fine. Of course, if you're violating the rules, you need to be fined. But it is the bracket of fines, the nature of hike, the steep fines here, which all governments, most governments now, even those who started to implement it verbatim, would like a revisit on it.
Yes, absolutely. And that is why Uttar Pradesh government is saying that they are going to revise the amount of the fines. Although they are not completely, in fact, implemented the whole new Motor Vehicle Act, but they have partially implemented. Let me tell you that there are few sections they have completely implemented with the same amount of fine, but there are some sections which are having a huge and in fact steep fine amount. So that is why that they want to in fact revise it, and those fines will be revised. What in fact the transport minister of Uttar Pradesh is saying. Although there is also that the traffic police of Uttar Pradesh is also issuing right now the court challan, because it has not yet cleared that whether they had clearly implemented it or not. So now it has been clear that they are going to implement it with the new revised amount of the new Motor Vehicle Act.
Right, but Alok, should we say that this is coming in as an afterthought for these states? We have Uttar Pradesh, we have Karnataka already, which has already expressed its desire to revisit the fines, the hiked fines here, whether they want to slash by a few percentage or by 50%. What exactly has been the feedback to the state governments by people? Where is this sense coming from now that this needs to be revisited for the sake of the people?
Yes, actually, there are a lot of complaints from the people, in fact, and there are a lot of, in fact, you saw in the previous days, there are reports of the scuffle with the people, between the people and the police also. Actually, the problem is that there are people who are not, in fact, ready to accept the increased amount of the fines. That is what the reason is first, and the second is the reason is there are Congress-ruled states, those who are not, who in fact don't want to implement that because they are Congress ruled or other party ruled because the BJP government in the center, and they have made this new motor vehicle act, and there are some states there which are going to witness the elections.
Okay, we get your point, Alok. Stay on with us because we're getting in more expert voices here on this as well. Of course, election-bound states would think twice before implementing this here, even though it's a question of public safety, it's a question of people's lives, but they would still think twice. Let's get in a word here from Mr. Vivek Velankar, activist with us. Thank you, Mr. Velankar, for being with us. This decision that is being taken by some states to reduce the fines, to slash the fines by 50% or make them cheaper, do you think that completely defeats the purpose of this new act? Because the purpose was that these expensive fines would work as a deterrent.
My intention is, to some extent, the 50% slashing is right. It is not done to all violations. The violations which will hamper somebody else's life or which will hamper somebody else's safety, have as it is, like drunken driving or maybe wrong side or something like that. And say, for example, if you are not carrying paper with you, license or registration, it's not a very big issue because if you can produce it within 8 days, that's fine. Secondly, if you don't wear a helmet or a seat belt, at the most, who will get harmed is yourself, not somebody else. So from that angle, I think they have taken the decision. People will understand their own safety. And
okay, so you're looking at third-party violations that need to be followed more strictly to keep that in check here, but other issues can be dealt with a cheaper fine. This is going to be an ongoing debate. We're looking at this for the past 2 days here. Several states now speaking out, saying that the fines are too steep. So this argument now has shifted to, one was never arguing whether or not fines need to be slapped on people. If you're violating the law, you will be fined. But yes, the bracket of fine or what you're going to be charged, should that be revisited? And if it is revisited, will it still serve the purpose of being a deterrent? Still needs to be seen. Thank you for being with us.